Hey everyone, welcome back. We are on part 4 of our Whatnot 101 series, and today we are tackling shipping. I have made a handful of shipping videos in the past, and I'm going to go ahead and link a couple of those up here. I have about 3 I think I've made that do a really good job breaking down the in-depth details of shipping. It goes through the back end. I do a lot of screen sharing and screen recording where I'm showing you how I'm tangibly going through, not just in the shipping component, but setting up shipping, getting prepared even before your show with shipping, and then of course the aftermath of packing and all that stuff. So I'm going to do something a little different in today's video because I do want to make this new information because I already have these videos that cover shipping. So if you want to watch this video and then go watch some of these other videos for more in-depth, definitely do that. Especially if you haven't started a show yet or done a show, those are going to be really good. But what we're going to basically do is pretend hypothetically like we just finished our show, which is what last week's video was. We did a complete start to finish live show. I'll also link that up here if you haven't watched it yet. It is a complete beginning of a show all the way through the show and to the end of a show of a live Whatnot auction. So definitely watch that video if you haven't already, but we're going to pretend that we just did our show and I sold some stuff and I have it all down here on the ground. I'm going to show you what sold here in a moment. And I'm going to just kind of talk you guys through the direct aftermath of, all right, the show's over. What's the next steps? But instead of going into like all the packing and stuff, because most of you guys probably know how to pack orders, which I am going to pack a couple orders just to show you kind of how I do it. Again, I sell books. So if you don't sell books, it might be a little different for you, but I will do a little like couple packing of book packages. However, I want to talk a little bit more about the logistics and things that maybe you don't think about until they happen and you're like, wait, what do I do? Below in the description box, I'm going to have a link to a Whatnot help article. And it's a lot of what this video is going to be modeled after. So if you click on the description box and click on that link, it's going to take you to a page with a bunch of random like prompts that relate to shipping. And if you need any more detail on anything I'm covering or just more detail than what I haven't covered from that help article, click on those links, read through. Whatnot surprisingly does a really good job at showing you a lot of details and giving you a lot of tangible tips to walk through the process, and it really breaks it down in those help articles. So while I as well enjoy video format, there is a benefit to going and reading those articles. So again, link in the description box below with that help article. But let's go ahead and get into it. We are going to, like I said, pretend we just finished a show, and I'm going to kind of show you what the aftermath looks like here. And then we'll get into some of the facts and things you need to know, and then we'll pack some orders as well. Okay, so let's just pretend we just finished a show, which I did last night. Obviously, it's the next morning, but this is what sold. We have some auction items over here. These are items that sold on auction, and then these were our bundles slash items that people put into a pile and then cashed out in one single purchase. So instead of running a bunch of these books as individual auctions, these were like bundled. And then over here I have my buy it now, and I'm pretty sure we sold some stuff from the buy it now, so I will pull from there as well. But that's what we're looking like. We have all of our orders and stuff like that. Then just to mention this, because I think it is important, you have your aftermath, right? So these are some of the books that were left over that need to be put away. So I need to put those onto my shelves in the categories they go in. I obviously have my tripod out because I'm filming, but normally I would put that away. And then I would put all this away. And so I actually left this out because I wanted to show you. This is what I would normally do either at the end of a show or the next morning when I came in. I would just go ahead and stick all of the items that I use to run my shows just in the piles that they need to go. So this is kind of how I typically store my stuff. And I can just pull those right back out when I have my next show. And then I have my phone over here, which I'm using. So it's not on the charger today, but I am using it partially a little bit. And so then, yeah, I would put those away. And then my setup is ready for another show. I don't have a bunch of stuff still out, especially if you're not selling books and you're selling things that maybe take up more space than even this. You're going to want to go ahead and find an organization system so you're not constantly overwhelmed with all of your leftover inventory. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and talk about how I know whose books are what, where they go, how I know which things need to go into the same box, which orders are different, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and discuss how I'm going to figure all that out. All right, so the first thing you need to know when it comes to the aftermath of a show is the concept of smart bundling. And this is what Whatnot automatically does within their seller dashboard. So after you are done with your show and you're ready to go ahead and start packing everything up, you're going to head on over to your Whatnot seller dashboard. And I think you can only link 5 videos in any YouTube video. And I think this is going to be the 5th one. So this might be the last thing I can link. I guess they're all going to be at the beginning of the video, but I'll link it up here. This is a seller dashboard walkthrough video where I actually walk you through everything with not just the seller dashboard, but like the back end of your Whatnot seller hub to kind of show you everything. And I think it does a really good job like focusing on the seller dashboard and what it looks like. So definitely watch that video as well. Again, you can watch it before or after this video. It's all going to tie into each other. But you're going to utilize that seller dashboard and the smart bundling that Whatnot automatically does. So basically, anytime a single buyer buys anything within that show, that one single show, not the shows you have all week, but just that one show, each individual show, they will bundle everything that buyer bought into one shipment. The only exception is going to be when you're selling really large items. Sometimes on my plus shows it happens. If the dimensions of the box kind of Whatnot deems is going to be just too much, like there's no way you're going to be able to fit all of these items into this box, they will automatically create a second shipment for a buyer, but the buyer will pay that shipping. Reminder, you want to have those shipping costs set up so that buyer's paying all shipping. We've talked about this before. As long as the buyer pays all shipping, they will see that cost when they make a purchase and they'll see that it has restarted. This is going to be primarily relating to like priority and ground advantage type packages, but they will basically buy their orders, they'll pay their shipping, whatever it might be. And then maybe they have some free shipping, maybe they have low shipping, it doesn't matter. And then one time they'll go to purchase something and it'll automatically pop their shipping back up to like $9. And that is because Whatnot is now generating a new label for them. That is basically Whatnot saying, okay, you've hit your max for how much we could think that this seller's going to be able to fit into a package. You got to start a new shipment. That doesn't happen often for me. Maybe depending on the categories you sell in, you experience that more. However, as long as you have buyer pays all shipping, it's not something you need to worry about, okay? So the smart bundling is going to bundle everyone's orders into one package, preferably, and you are going to look at the seller dashboard and you will just go down and pick the orders that fall under each different buyer, and you will put them into a pile. And once you are done sorting out everything that you sold into the different piles for the different shipments that you have for each buyer, you will then begin packing. So let's go ahead and jump into our seller dashboard. I'm not doing any screen sharing in this video. I don't think, again, I have so many videos. I have so many already out there that are really helpful. So we're going to do just some general recording. I'm going to show you what the seller dashboard looks like and how I'm going to go ahead and start picking these orders and organizing, and then I'll have it all set up and we'll continue on with our next step. All right, so I've got my computer pulled out and I have my seller hub pulled up here, and I'm going to toggle on down to the shipments section. All right, shipments is going to pull up all of my orders that need to be shipped out. So we can see here, it did go ahead and it pulled up our most recent show. If for some reason it doesn't, you're just going to click on this little drop down menu and then go to the show that you need. But it did pull up our last show, which is great. And we're going to go ahead and just exit out of that. So what I like to do, I've talked about this in the past, is organize it by alphabetical order. So if you click where it says recipient here at the top and click it twice, it will then change it to alphabetical order for you. So you see how now I have all alphabetical order. So then I'm just going to click this little drop down arrow and it'll actually open up all of my orders. Okay. So now, as I said, you can see each individual buyer with what they purchased in the show. So let's go ahead and pick a couple of these and then I'll show you what it looks like. And you would just do this accordingly to what you sell. So I have for my first order here a couple of auction wins and a buyer's giveaway. So they purchased books 3 through 4, number 1. Here at the bottom, I don't know why, I always start at the bottom. It's just a habit. So 3 to 4, number 1, they got this little bundle here. And then they have 12 to 15, number 1, and 1 to 3, number 2. So here is 12 to 15, number 1. And then 1 to 3, number 2 actually has a couple of books in it. They also have, you can see here, a buyer's giveaway, which they actually picked as one of these leveled readers, and it's just included in here. So this is their entire bundle. Go ahead and zoom out here for a second for you guys. So this is the first bundle for my first buyer here. Now what I typically do is just take them over here to my shipping room. Let's turn the light on. And I set them down here on the ground. Again, I have talked about this in past videos. I have gone through this entire process. So if you want to see that more in depth, definitely click on those links at the beginning of the video. I'll try to link them in the description box as well. All right, then I just scroll on up and go to my next buyer. And they have a giveaway, a bundle, and an auction win. So they won 4 to 7, number 1, which was this book right here. They have a bundle, and their giveaway book should be in their bundle. Where are they? Right here, altered. It's a pretty big one, so I'm gonna need 2 hands to grab that. But their giveaway book is also in there as well. All right, got that over there. And then I'll do one more pull for you guys. Next order here, 1 to 2, number 1, which was this little bundle right here. And that's all that they had. So again, just kind of go on over and stick it in our little queue. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and repeat that process until I have all of my orders pulled over here and ready to be packed up. All right, perfect. So got all of my orders pulled. As you can see, it's now empty over here and everything is laid out here. So we've got all of these. One thing I like to do as a good pro tip just for when you're getting started is going to be counting your bundles after you pulled them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then I also have a marketplace order here. Let's double check it, because I actually don't remember how many orders we had to ship. We have 13 pending shipments, and then I do have a marketplace order as well, which is this one here. So that is why we have 14 total. So we've got our marketplace order and all of our orders that we just pulled. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys. If you have any questions about the pulling your orders process, let me know. Again, this looks like a lot because I do the bundling. For you, it may look like a lot less items and it won't be as overwhelming because maybe you do smaller individual auctions. Let's take just a moment to talk about some of the shipping supplies I use, just for those of you that are curious and haven't watched any of my other videos on shipping yet. I'm just gonna do a really quick, here's some of the things I use as a bookseller. So if you are a bookseller, these are things that you may wanna use incorporating into your shipping side of your business as well. It's a little crazy in here, but whose shipping stations aren't crazy? So this is kind of my shipping room. I've got a couch that I definitely do not use and some of my shipping supplies here, as well as stuff underneath here and boxes over here. So here's what I use. I use a lot of recycled boxes. I do source a lot of my boxes from recycling bins, and I've got all my boxes in different sizes there. I do also have a few other box-like things down here that I use to ship books in, as well as some recycled materials. And then I have my poly bags. A lot of the supplies I use are going to be linked down in the description, including my poly bag. So I've got a couple different sizes there. And then I really hate using this U-Haul packing paper. In case of an emergency, if you ever need packing paper, run to a U-Haul. It's probably one of the more reasonably priced packing papers that I can find locally, but I order my paper on Amazon. Again, link is in the description. Highly recommend buying your paper in bulk. And then one of the other things I buy is corrugated cardboard, and this is a very small, pathetic looking roll. Normally the roll is probably about, I don't know, this tall. It is huge. It's 250 feet of corrugated cardboard, and I use this to just kind of provide a little extra padding to some of my packages. And I'll try to use this in one of the shipping that I do today so you can see how I use it. But that, packing paper, poly bags, and boxes are going to be my main thing that I use. And then just a few other things. I've got, like a measuring tape for when I do need to measure my packages. I've got, extra tape down here. I've got my tape gun, of course, computer. I'll have a scale up here. Some other tools I use. We've got like an X-Acto knife. I have scissors, markers, and pens. And then, of course, my label maker or my label printer. Also, again, linked in the description box. And yeah, I have some scrap stuff over here that I'll use if I need little scrap, bubble wrap. So kind of the normal stuff most people use with shipping, but that's kind of my setup. It's this whole room. My whole room in here is a shipping room. It's kind of all laid out randomly, but it works for me. Okay, so that is the order pulling side of things and kind of a little glimpse as to what that seller dashboard looks like. Now I just want to go ahead and talk to you guys about a few just general shipping regulations and things that you need to know. This is just standard whatnot information that you've maybe never heard before, or you just need to jog your memory on. And again, link in the description. It's going to be a better detailed version of a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about here, okay? All right, so piece of information kind of number one that you need to remember is that all shipping on Whatnot is done through the United States Postal Service. So all of your labels are gonna be USPS labels that you're going to drop your packages at the post office, or they will be picking them up from you if you wanna do a scheduled pickup if your location allows it. So all labels are going to fall in either that medium mail category, priority, or ground advantage. There are some, plain white envelope shipping options as well if you are shipping things that could fit into plain white envelopes. If you want to look that up, definitely do so. Whatnot does another great job of kind of explaining how their PWE shipping works, but I don't do any of that, so it's not something that I'm going to cover in this video. But it is going to be a USPS label, and it does need to be a label that's generated by Whatnot. So you can't unfortunately go to any third-party apps or places to buy labels for maybe discounted labels. They do need to be the labels that are provided by Whatnot, especially since the buyer is paying the shipping. Whatnot is going to determine, based on their location, what is the best label for them. Like, do they need to go priority? Should they go ground? Is it cheaper for them to go media? Is it cheaper for them to do one service or the other? Okay, so you're going to use all the labels that are created by Whatnot. There are some exceptions, I think, when you live in different countries, but for the United States, Whatnot generated labels. And then another thing you need to remember is that shipping is 2 business days. So you do need to have all of your shipments dropped off at the post office within 2 business days. That excludes obviously Saturday and Sunday, and then any major national holidays. So there is some leeway there, but for the most part, plan to have those shipments packed and prepped to be shipped out as soon as possible, and definitely within 2 business days, or you will start seeing your metrics on your seller account adjust. And if you reach, I think it's below 80% of like your shipping goal, like if you're just constantly having delayed shipments, you will get some warnings. You might get a temporary ban. You may get permanently banned if you continue to do that over a period of time. So make sure you are staying on top of accurate and prompt shipping. All right, I think that does a good job basically covering like the little tips and little things you need to like remember before we even get like started doing a show and shipping setup. Let's go ahead and go into our next room, and we're going to go ahead and just talk about briefly some like other few things that I just want to mention, because again, this is not going to be like a traditional shipping video in the sense of like I'm just packing orders, because I really hope that if you're a seller and you're beginning to sell on Whatnot and you've probably sold before, you know how to pack packages, you know how to pack the items that you're selling. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the actual shipping side of things. I just want to reiterate and remind you guys of some of the like lesser known informational tips and tricks about selling on Whatnot and the shipping side of things. All right, I just wanted to change settings a little bit, and I'm also sitting down on the ground because I've been standing for a bit. So I want to talk to you guys real quickly about shipping adjustments. This is something that you are going to come across as you're selling on Whatnot, and you may or may not often come across it, but I do want you to be kind of prepared for what a shipping adjustment is and how to like approach them. After you've packed up an order and you're ready to enter the dimensions into Whatnot to let them know like how much, you know, the package weighs and what the dimensions of the box are that you're shipping in are, you may have no adjustment. It may be perfect. You weighed and had the dimensions correct, and Whatnot accounted for that when they charged the buyer for shipping, and there's no need for you to pay anything extra or anything like that. So you will just generate the label and it'll be perfect and you'll be good. There's no shipping adjustment. All you did was do your general modifications for the package. Sometimes, however, you'll enter all that information and you'll scroll down and you'll see where it says shipping adjustment, and it'll tell you a price. Sometimes it's 50 cents, sometimes it's $1 and some change, sometimes it's $6, and sometimes I've seen as high as a $70 adjustment on my end. And there are a variety of reasons why this might happen, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of ease your concerns with this. I talked about it earlier. Sometimes Whatnot will deem that a package needs to be split up into 2 shipments. Sometimes they don't. And sometimes when you go to pack that order, you realize, I've got to use a pretty large box to get all of this stuff packed in. And unfortunately, those dimensions exceed what Whatnot expected when they charged the buyer shipping. So sometimes the dimensions might be a little higher or the weight might be a little higher. And you will see that, you know, maybe a couple dollar adjustment, maybe a few cents, maybe it's a larger adjustment, but you get what's called 5 free adjustments every week. So every single week, it'll reset. You get 5 opportunities to kind of make that mistake or have an adjustment that just isn't covered by what the buyer paid, and you get 5 free of those. So basically Whatnot's like, hey, sometimes things happen, especially when you're selling a lot. It's normal. We're going to give you 5 free opportunities to not have to pay out of pocket. We're going to cover the additional costs. You don't need to worry about that. After your 5th time, though, you will start to begin incurring those costs. Every once in a blue moon, I use all 5 of them. Sometimes if my scale wasn't calibrated correctly, or I just miscalculated something that I put in and people bought a bunch of it and everyone's shipments got skewed off somehow, but that is very, very rare, and you'll learn from those mistakes after they happen. But sometimes I'll have that and it'll be like, I'll use my 5 free adjustments and it'll be like, hey, you owe $3.28 out of your account. So we're just going to deduct that from your payout. Okay, not a problem. It's really usually very, very small amounts of money. It's nothing that's going to really break the bank. I know that I mentioned that one time I had a $70 adjustment, and I don't remember the exact reason why it was so high, but I do know that it was going to across the country. I think it was going to Oregon, and I live in Virginia. I think it was going to Oregon, and it was Oregon or Washington. And I remember that the shipment just needed to be, I could not fit them in the box that would have been like a $25 adjustment. I had no choice. I had to put them in this like larger box. And so the shipping adjustment was like $70, and I believe it was still covered. I don't know why. I think that the shipping dimensions of the box were not that high, because sometimes shipping adjustments are not covered. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But nonetheless, it was covered and I didn't have to come out of pocket from it. And it was like a lesson learned on my end. I think I just underestimated. It was a plush show. It was stuffed animals and toys and things. I think I just underestimated like how much was going to have to fit in one order. And again, for some reason, Whatnot did not deem that that needed to be split up into 2 shipments. And I was just kind of stuck with that. If that ever happens to you and you are newer to this and it's not covered by your free adjustments and you're like, what do? I have to cancel this order. If I pay $70 for a shipping adjustment, I'm going to lose all the profit from not just this purchase, but maybe even multiple other purchases. Reach out to Whatnot, see if there's something that they can do to help fix or remedy the situation. And worst case scenario, maybe you do need to cancel the order, right? But that's kind of advanced stuff I don't think you need to be worrying about at this point in time as you're just getting started. Really what you need to know is just that you're entering the weights of the items you're selling correctly, and you're thinking about how large the items are that you're selling. Like how many items can you truly fit into a box? And if you notice that one buyer is buying a bunch of stuff, maybe take a second to go into your dashboard in the middle of your show. You can go into your seller dashboard and look at that buyer. Maybe see if Whatnot did regenerate them a label. Maybe just see, did Whatnot do that? Or is that something I need to be cautious of and think about that? But again, this is kind of like really advanced train of thought when it comes to stuff. However, it's just important to keep in mind that it does happen and it does exist. But nonetheless, you get 5 free of those adjustments. Okay. So, worst case scenario, it's a little overweight, it's a little bit bigger, you get 5 free adjustments, you're going to be fine. There are some extenuating circumstances where it won't do the adjustment, it won't allow you to do the adjustment. And what that basically is going to be is your weight was so off, and I think it's like more than 5 pounds off. Like anything more than 5 pounds, Whatnot is like, hey, we're not covering that. Like you were way too off on your estimate of how much this package was going to weigh. And then the other one is dimensions, when the dimensions of the box are just so much larger that it's like, we can't take the cost of what it's going to actually cost us to ship that package. You should have done a better job at what you were doing. Those are rare situations. They do happen from time to time, but it's very slim. So again, help article below, read that adjustment page, just get familiar with it. But that's kind of what you need to know about shipping adjustments. Last thing I'll say real quick about shipping adjustments, if you feel like the items that you're selling are going to fall in a category where you are going to constantly have larger packages or heavier packages than what you think, you can go to your shipping settings in your seller hub and go to like shipping profiles and custom profiles and things. And you can actually create custom profiles for certain items that maybe you sell that are a lot larger. Like maybe you do sell lamps, right? Something that's like really big. And you know, you can only fit really 1 lamp in a box. Maybe you can fit 2. When someone comes into your show and they want to buy 3 of your lamps, they will pay for the shipping on each individual lamp because of the way you have it set up. So you'll have it in your profile that one of this item can fit in a box and that's it. And when you set up your show as lamp and you use that profile, that shipping profile of 1 lamp, Whatnot will know that once they buy that, that's the only item that'll fit in that package. Anything else they buy has to restart a label. So when they go to buy the second lamp, they'll be paying for a second label. And when they buy the third lamp, so they might pay, you know, $8 each time in shipping for each lamp. But that's the way that they have to do it if they want to buy that many lamps from you. I know that's an obscure example, but there is an option to kind of work your way around so you don't have to deal with shipping adjustments. But Again, it's really not too much of an issue, and you do get the 5 free. All right, that's a great segue into bundling and unbundling certain orders within a single buyer's shipment. So say someone comes in and they buy 10 items from you. Maybe when you go to start packing them up, you realize that the box is going to be too big, or it's going to be too heavy, or these items just don't ship well together. I need to actually split this up into 2 separate packages. And that is an option. However, you need to know that that is only an option before you generate your label. So you need to do all of this before you're putting in your dimensions for that label and generating it. You can't, in hindsight, go back and then unbundle it. So what you would do, I'll show you this on the computer when we jump into some of the shipping. I'll show you kind of what it looks like. I'll do a sample for you to see bundling and unbundling. However, I just want to explain it real quick. So most of your bundling is going to count as an adjustment. And as long as the label that you're going to be generating is less than the total cost of the label that would have been if it was just one shipment, it'll be a free adjustment. If it is going to cost more, like you're unbundling it and creating 2 separate shipments is actually going to cost more than what the buyer has paid to cover those shipments, Whatnot will charge you or make the adjustment for you. Most of the time, even if the label being created costs a couple dollars, that adjustment will cover it. Every now and again, it will say, hey, this is not covered by one of your adjustments and you're going to have to come out of pocket this amount. So definitely making sure that you have your accurate information in when you're selling is really important, because you don't want to afterwards have to unbundle stuff and then also pay out of pocket. And it happens from time to time. Usually, if it's happening in one show every handful of months, it's really not a big deal for you to come out of pocket $8 or $9 every once in a blue moon. It actually happened to me a few weeks ago. I just had to unbundle a shipment. There was nothing I could do, and I did have to pay. I think it ended up being about $8 or so for an additional shipment. Not a big deal. It happens so few times that it's not breaking my bank, but don't make it a habit, or else it is going to break the bank and it's really going to cut into your profits. So again, I'll show you guys an example of that here in a minute when we get into kind of the dashboard and I start showing you some of the packing. I just want to talk about 3 more things really quickly just before we continue on. Again, this video is not more of the hands-on side of things. It's more factual and just trying to give you helpful things to keep in mind. Label size is something I wanted to just remind you all of. So basically, you'll notice when you go to generate all of your labels, it'll ask you what is the label size you need. What are you printing your labels out on? Are they going to be 4x6 thermal printer labels? Do you need a full sheet for a regular printer? What size labels are you printing? And most of you guys are probably going to be using the 4x6 size label, and that screen will pop up. It'll ask you and you want to confirm. And once you click generate labels, that is it. You cannot go back and change that label size. So just make sure when that screen pops up and says, this is the size label you're using, confirm it, make sure that is set correctly. Okay. It's a small thing. It's not a huge thing. If worst case scenario, you generate your labels and you have to print them all out on regular size, printer paper for one show, it's fine. Next time, just make sure you're paying attention and you switch it over to the size that you actually need. All right, second to last topic is going to be accepting and denying cancellation requests. As a seller, you do not have to accept cancellation requests for any reason. You can deny every cancellation request. You do not have to accept them. As part of selling on Whatnot, there are no returns and there are really no cancellations. And it's one of the beautiful things about live selling is that you've committed to buy the item. You don't get to then go, actually I changed my mind, especially when there was a bid or an auction going for it and there was a bid war and other people were interested in the item, or maybe that bid went really high and they just weren't expecting to have to pay that much. Bid responsibly is kind of the motto on Whatnot. So cancellations, accepting and denying them can be kind of a controversial topic, but it's really going to be up to you and what you want to do in your business. Some people don't mind accepting cancellations. They understand that things happen. People place bids accidentally, and it's just sometimes that's the way it goes, and you want to honor those and you want to, treat your customers right, I guess, and accept those cancellation requests. But I will go ahead and warn you that most cancellation requests do not happen because someone bid accidentally or any of the other kind of fake reasons that people make up to cancel items. I'm just being honest. There's a lot of cancellation requests that'll come in that are just, honestly, they're not real. They're not real reasons. They're made up and they're often lies. I don't know how controversial that sounds, but I've gotten cancellation requests where I'm like, that's just a lie. Like, that is a straight up lie. You just want to cancel the item. And so it's put a bad taste in a lot of sellers' mouths. And we just generally, as a kind of a group and a collective, I know a lot of sellers in the space consider this the same way, that we just don't accept cancellations for any reason, and you need to bid responsibly. There are show notes. You can put that in there. I typically have it in mine. Actually, I don't know if it's in there right now, but most of the time, especially on like my stuffed animal shows or my higher value shows, I put bid responsibly, no cancellations accepted. So that's up to you whether you want to accept a cancellation request or not. There's no ping or ding on your account if you don't accept it and you say, nope, sorry, you're getting the item. Also, somebody can't get the item and then leave a review that says, hey, I asked to cancel this order and the buyer didn't. What, so rude, or something like that. You could contact Whatnot and be like, hey, can you remove this review from my account because it's not accurate. Doesn't have any representation of me and the product that I sold to them. So, and Whatnot will always remove those. They're really good about that. So just know that that is an option. People can request to cancel, and it's up to you whether or not you want to honor those. Sometimes there is an agreement, like something will happen in a show and someone bids on an item and I know that they weren't supposed to, like maybe it was for someone else. They can put in a cancellation request and I will accept that cancellation request, of course. And also, I don't think you get dinged on your account for accepting a cancellation request, but you do get dinged for initiating a cancellation. So if you cancel an order like on your own, you will get dinged, and you can only cancel but so many orders until Whatnot's like, hey, what's going on? Like, it's not really good customer experience for you to be doing that. But if somebody asks to cancel an order, I don't believe it affects you. It may go on your account, but I don't know if it's a negative effect. But either way, I usually just deny all of them because bid responsibly. All right, and the last thing that I just want to cover with you guys before we get into some shipping is the free pickup process. So sellers can enable free local pickup on their profiles and their shipping settings, which allows buyers who are local enough to you that don't want to pay shipping to actually come and pick the items up from you in person. And that is something I've used in the past. I've done, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 local pickups, and they all work really easily. Basically, what will happen is the buyer will get like a little code, and once you meet up with them and exchange the goods, you will scan their code or enter their little number from the code into your app on the order page, and it'll say, yep, cool, we got it, everything's good, and it'll take the order away from your page, and then the buyer can take their items and go because they've already paid. They just didn't have to pay shipping. So local pickup is a great option if that's something you're interested in. It's not default on, so you will have to go in and turn it on if you want it to. I think that the local pickup is automatically defaulted to be turned off. So if you don't have it turned on, you probably don't need to do anything unless you want it on. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into some of the shipping stuff, just some tangible stuff. I think those are like a really good wrap up of kind of the main things you need to know when it comes to kind of post-show back-end shipping stuff. And so let's go ahead and pack a couple of these orders just in case you've never seen how books are packed or how I pack my orders. I'll just kind of show it to you. And I will show you a few things on the dashboard like the unbundling and bundling, and maybe I can show you what the adjustment page looks like when that happens as well. And if you have any questions, as always, drop them in the comments below. All right, let's go ahead and get into shipping some of these packages. Okay. So we've got a variety of different packages down here. Some of these are going to go in boxes. Some of these are going to go in poly bags. Some are going to be wrapped just in paper. Some will be wrapped in the corrugated cardboard. So let's go ahead and maybe pick 2 or 3 different types of packages that I would pack, and I'll just kind of show you my method for the different styles. I'll do like a box, a paper, and a corrugated cardboard or something. So we might go out of order. I guess we'll just start off with this first order here, since this one is going to go into a box for sure. So what I go ahead and do is pop them up here, of course, on the table, and I will take off the little tags I use to mark what the orders are. And what I typically do is take at least one that has the name or the item number here, and I'll stick it to the side so that I can know which order I'm working on. So I'm working on this order for Acorn, and this is their bundle. I'm actually out of... This is my last really good square box. So we'll just use this. This is my last one. I need to go buy some more of these. I do, like I said, typically source all of my boxes from the recycling bins, but I do buy a handful of boxes, and this is one of the sizes, so I'll have to buy some more. So go ahead and tape up that bottom, and just kind of get these in here. Again, you guys should know how shipping works. I don't think this is like rocket science for anybody by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll just show you a couple of the things I do. So as you can see in this box here, there is definitely a good bit of space left over on the top here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my X-Acto knife and just kind of cut this down a little bit more true to size. And you can do this regardless of what you're selling. I'm going to just cut one of the corners and then do a very mild little score across. Cut the other corner, same deal. And I'm just doing a little, maybe 1.5 or so inch from the top score on all sides and cutting those corners down. Doesn't need to be perfect, but just enough to get that bend. And then of course I'm going to take some paper and fill in the gaps here. And say one thing about shipping that everyone should know, but I get dumbfounded by the way I get packages sometimes. Some people do not know how to ship stuff, and it is sad. Let me put this in. I have actually not bought from people again because I didn't like the way they shipped. There are sellers who I really liked buying from that I stopped buying from because their shipping was just so bad that every time I got a package, I didn't like the way it made me feel. Like I didn't get the box and go, ooh. I got the box and it was like clunk, 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 books just all over the place. Drives me crazy. So I've got the paper in here, right? Let me go ahead and show you what I mean by not the clunk, clunk, clunk. So now I'm gonna go ahead and fold down where that crease was on all the edges. And so now I've cut down the size of the box so I don't have to use as much paper, right? This is what your packages should sound like when you're shipping them to people. You hear that? It's the sound of nothing. Your items should not be jumbled all around in a box when you're shipping them. Ever. Okay? Just like ever. Please stop doing it. And then take a pen and I go ahead and write the order name. So this is Acorn. I'll then take that Post-it, stick it in the trash. I'll take my box, which is all packed up now, and stick it back over here to the side. Okay, and then I'll just go down my line usually. But we're gonna go ahead and skip this next one because I just want to show you 2 other styles of shipping, and then we'll move on. So let's do, we'll do this in corrugated cardboard. This is a newer buyer, so I'll go ahead and give them some good presentation, even though these probably don't need corrugated cardboard. I'll show you what that process looks like. So basically what I do is I take my largest book that's going to be in the pile and an X-Acto knife, and I'm going to come right over here to where I have the corrugated cardboard. And what I basically do is just size it out. So kind of stick it close to the bottom, take my X-Acto knife and just run it across, and now I've got a perfect size for the package that I'm going to be packaging. And then what I like to do with this corrugated cardboard, which again is linked in my description box, is I like to take this ribbed side, and this is the inside. The outside is going to be the nice smooth side, okay? So the ribbed side is the inside. Ribbed side, inside. All right, so then I'm going to go ahead and just stick these on here right to the end. Give them a nice little line up. So make sure nothing's getting bent. And then I'll just go ahead and flip this over, so on and so forth. Again, like I said, this was such a small little bundle. I really didn't need the corrugated cardboard. And then instead of continuing to flip this all around, I want to save some of this because I can then take this little scrap and use it again for another order. I have some over here, you can see. I always have like little scraps, and I can take these, and whenever maybe I have like one book, I can reuse them. So that's why I'll cut it off instead of keep going around. Now for something like this, honestly, I probably wouldn't really put paper in it, but I'm gonna just show you how it looks when you are putting paper around it. I don't need a whole sheet, so I'm just gonna take half. And this is exactly what I do all the time. So I'm gonna fold it in there. So, I don't know why that got all weird. Fold it, and then I have some tape up here. I'll just take this whole piece. tape it. Tape up here. And then I'm going to take 2 more little pieces of tape. And what I do is just go ahead and fold these in. So, and tape over, fold it in, and tape. So, nothing super fancy, but it is nice and protected. It has that corrugated cardboard around it, so it's not going to get damaged at all in shipping. I just grab a poly bag, stick it on in there. Sealed. This buyer did not have a name tag on their bundle. Well, they did. They went as an auction. But I know who the buyer was. It's a new buyer, and I just remember the name. So I'm going to put that on there. So I wrote the name there. And again, I'm going to continue in the order. Obviously, we skipped that one, so it's going to go here next to it in the pile that it was. All right, now let me go ahead and show you the third way that I would pack something, which is no corrugated cardboard and no box. This is going to be using just packing paper. And when I would do that would be on something like this, where I have some hardcover books. Okay, these are hardcover books that I can just put some packing paper around, and they will be perfectly protected in transit, and I don't need to use any additional packing supplies. So I'm going to take a full sheet of paper, same deal. And this one I can take just one piece of tape, because what I'm going to do is fold each side over onto each other. And now I have this really beautiful package. It's got some protection on these corners. The paper is definitely going to protect those corners. Here. And I'll show you something else I do just to get this to be a little bit more protected. After I get it sealed up, I will take the excess air out and fold one of those corners up so that it is extra protected. Okay, I'm gonna fold that over. So now it's just not going to even slide around in the package. It's just nice and protected in there. And so I can feel the corners here. Even if these get thrown around like the post office will do, I have pretty strong confidence that these books will not be damaged. I've learned to lower my expectations with shipping a little bit. It isn't perfect. It can be a little overboard and excessive sometimes, but make it simple, make it effective. You don't need to overcomplicate the shipping side of things. Just think about, how you would want to receive the package if you purchased it. That's kind of a big motto that I use when I think about shipping. So I'm going to obviously go ahead and pack up the rest of these. But before I do that, I want to take you guys over here to the computer, and I do just want to talk to you briefly about kind of that bundling and unbundling and what a shipping adjustment might look like. Here we are again on our seller dashboard, and we have our orders here. So I'm going to go ahead and do our first package here that we packed up in this box. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is get it onto the scale. We got boom. So it's looking like it's 4.8 pounds. And I'm going to take our first order here. And as you can see, there's all this detail and information. We're going to scroll all the way over to the little pencil sign and click on that. And it's going to pull up a little screen here for us to go ahead and modify the weight and dimensions of the item that we're selling. So we have our length, and the dimensions are on this box with medium mail. They don't need to be accurate. 10 by 8 by 6, we did cut it down, so it's probably closer to a 10 by 8 by 4 or 5. We'll do 10 by 8 by 5. It's inches, and then down here in the weight, it does auto default to ounces. It's kind of annoying. We're going to go ahead and switch it over to pounds. It actually looks like it's 4.9 pounds. So 4.9, switch that over to pounds. And then we're going to ignore these. We don't need signature. This is not hazardous, and we do not need to add insurance. If you are selling those types of items that you want signature, insurance, or marking it as hazardous, please do. we're going to go ahead and scroll on down, and here is kind of that adjustments page. So it kind of ignore the already paid section. It's always going to say, it almost always says 0. Just ignore that. You really want to look at the pending adjustments. So you just want to make sure that that says 0 adjustments, right? And then you'll click the save changes. Okay. Let's hypothetically say that this item actually weighs 7.5 pounds. Okay. It's a lot heavier than what I said. So now when I go down, you're going to see here, it says $1.16 adjustment. However, I do have some label adjustments. So if I was to save this, it would auto just take one of my adjustments. It would not charge me the $1.16. Okay. So that is what that adjustment page is going to look like. It'll change it. So now let's say, I want to show you guys where it's not covered. Okay. Let's say that the length is like 18 by 16 by 10, which is just like a ridiculous size box. Doesn't change because again, it's media mail. I want to try to make it like outrageous. Let's say that the package weighs like 45 pounds. Let's make it like crazy. All right. So it says label allowance. Label adjustment is going to be $30. You've made one change that isn't covered by your free adjustment allowances. So if I was to click save changes, I would have $30.55 deducted from my profile. Okay. Obviously that's not the case. Let's go ahead and fix that. 10 by 8 by 5. And what was it? 4.9 pounds, I believe. And we'll go ahead and click save changes because that is the accurate weight and dimensions. My screen's refreshing. Ignore that. Sometimes that happens. But then after I do that, what I would do is just stick it back down here and I would continue on doing all of my weights. I would go through all of these and put in all of the weights and stuff. And if I redo this, you'll be able to see. You can see where you're always at because do you see how now it says 4.9 pounds, 10 by 8 by 5? So it's saved that information in there. Okay. So that's kind of the label adjustments. Let me just really quickly show you a bundling and unbundling. Okay, let's pick an item that has a few different things in it. I'm pretty sure this order has a couple of different items. Okay, so this has 3 different items. Let's say I want to send this one book separately. For some reason, I can't fit it into the box. It needs to be sent separately. I don't know, whatever the reasoning might be. What I would go ahead and do, click on the order. So I'm just going to click on it. It's going to pull it up. Here are the 3 items, right? We've got a giveaway, a bundle, and then the item. I'm going to go down here to where it says edit shipment, and I would click unbundle shipment. And then I would select the items that I want to unbundle. So I just want this one book right here to be separate. So then if I click unbundle selected items, it'll say, hey, you're going to be charged $0 for shipping on this because the package weight and whatnot, the label isn't going to be modified too much. You're not going to need to pay anything extra as of right now. Sometimes, every once in a while, once you do this and then go in and actually create your label, sometimes on the back end, it'll say, actually, we weren't expecting it to weigh that much, or we weren't expecting it to be that big. And sometimes there'll be a small adjustment. Not often though. Normally it'll tell you, hey, you're good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel just because I'm not interested in unbundling this shipment. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. But once you click confirm, if you go back over here, you'll end up seeing 2 orders for this buyer. So instead of just seeing the one order for the one buyer, collapse it back up, there would be a second order down here. It would say altered era thrift, and then there would be a second order for altered era thrift, and it would be 2 different shipments with 2 different dimensions and weights needing to be put in. Okay. So that's kind of the bundling, unbundling side of things. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this video up. I am hoping that you guys enjoyed that and found it helpful. I really, really recommend watching my other shipping videos. Again, linked in the description or pinned at the beginning of this video. They are really helpful on the more like, I wouldn't say breakdown side of things, but I feel like they each kind of cover different parts of the shipping process more in depth. I think there's one whole video I do like just shipping. Like I just show you a bunch of shipping. There's another video where I talk a lot about shipping profiles. Like I talk a lot about shipping profiles. There's the seller dashboard video. And then there's one that I recently did just a few weeks ago, which I think was kind of more like an updated, just like, hey, some more things you need to know about shipping. So that's going to be down there as well. And those are just all going to be really really helpful for you to jump into it and feel confident. I think shipping is the number one thing I get questions about. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. If you have a longer form question and you just need to reach out to me and you want more of like a one-on-one kind of like response answer type thing, you can always reach out to me on Instagram, same screen name, Resell Maven. It usually takes like a day or two for me to always go through my request folder, as I do get a lot of messages in there. So if I don't respond immediately, I will get back to you eventually, I promise, usually within a few days. But just shoot me a message over there if you have any detailed questions, or put them in the comments below. I think that's pretty much it. I, again, really hope this was helpful. I don't feel like I went super in depth, but I just wanted to cover topics that I don't feel like are typically discussed, that are just good to keep in mind. Again, reference that link in the description about the Whatnot article that covers a lot of the stuff I talked about more in depth, okay? So if you have any more like questions and you just don't mind reading, definitely click on that and read through that help forum. So, all right, I think that's pretty much it. Hopefully you're enjoying the series. If you are, please hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. I post content about Whatnot and reselling in general every week on Thursday around noon. I'll catch you guys next week. Have a wonderful week until then. Bye.